Dave Rubin here is getting paid $400,000 a month to create videos that get 700 views, 600 views. It's not 741,000. You're not missing words there. It's just 741 views.
I saw 100K per video. I literally jumped out of my seat. I was like Mr. Beast levels of income for a sponsorship.
And so as the numbers listed in these documents, they're probably slightly below market.
You're lying. But he's lying that these are below market values. And I can tell you that as somebody that makes 7 figures a year on YouTube. You absolutely will never see a creator of his size getting paid that much money with no call to action, with no products being sold, with no affiliate link, with no key performance indicators, no minimum viewership threshold, no incentives for certain products numbers sold, not featuring any. It's absolutely not true. He is lying. Basically, an indictment was unsealed yesterday for 2 Russians. The nicknames they go by are Kostya and Lena. These 2 people are working for Russia. These 2 people approached Lauren Chen, a popular YouTuber and, as of 2 hours ago, an ex-Blaze TV employee that I used to talk to a long time ago called Roaming Millennial, or I guess not that long ago. Her and her husband worked with these 2 people to open a media company in the United States called Tenet Media. And the goal was to have this company be kind of a money laundering operation / illegitimate foreign influence operation from the country of Russia. The 2 Russian people worked with Lauren and her husband to allegedly deceive 6 different commentators. The 3 key ones, or the 3 largest ones, being Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Betty Johnson. And over the course of about a year, paid these people exorbitant amounts of money to do work for this Tenet Media channel. Lauren Southern is commenter 4, Taylor Hansen is commenter 5, and then Matt Christensen is commenter 6. And it's a pretty easy guessing game as you go through the indictment and you look at who was originally brought out of the channel to figure out like who was hired. For as of what we know from the indictment, the only 4 people that have allegedly done anything wrong are Lauren, her husband, Lauren Chen, her husband, and then the 2 Russian operatives. The amount of money that was paid here was insane. Apparently, Dave Rubin and Tim Pool were getting paid $400,000 a month to publish videos on this channel that has 300,000 subscribers and whose average video is getting like 5 to 10,000 views. So Dave Rubin here is getting paid $400,000 a month to create videos that get 700 views, 600 views, 1.6 thousand views. Good job, Dave. 741 views. Sorry if you think it's lagging. It's not 741K. It's not 741,000. You're not missing words there. It's just 741 views, okay? We could all click on a video right now and 10x the views on some of the videos that Dave Rubin is getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to produce. In one of these videos, he calls me a cuck. So I can say there are Russian state-funded anti-Destiny cuck jokes. We don't know if anyone else is going to be indicted, although Founder 1 and Founder 2 refer to Lauren Chen and her husband. It doesn't say unindicted co-conspirator or unindicted anything. I don't know if that's significant or not, but I think there's a decent chance that they are probably also going to be indicted. The indictment already be done. It's just a sealed one. Maybe they've already been arrested, possibly, potentially, maybe. There's probably a good chance that they've already been arrested, maybe. And I think that some of the evidence in this article, or not article, I'm so sorry. Some of the evidence in this unsealed indictment is against just those 2 individuals. So you can tell that they were trying to establish in this indictment that the 2 founders knew for a fact that they were working for Russians. They were misrepresenting that to the commentators that they hired, and they were engaged in, I think it's considered money laundering, where basically money was flowing through other banks in ways that they knew was probably not legitimate. So, for instance, one of the wire transfers, contrary to U.S. Company 1, that's Tenet Media, contrary to Tenet Media's invoices, which reflect fees for staff and commentators, as well as Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan's commissions, husband and wife, the wire notes of many of Tenet Media's inbound wire transfers ascribe the payments to the purchase of electronics. For example, the wire note for Turkish Shell Entity 1's $318,800 wire payment to Tenet Media on March 1st, 2024 read, buying goods, inventory 013 iPhone 15 Pro Max 512 gigabyte. So they were obviously engaged in, I don't know if this would be considered wire fraud, money laundering, or what, but yeah, in the course of about a year, there was about $10 million which flowed through to this tenant media company and to Lauren Chen's personal company. I think with her and her husband pocketing probably $760,000, I believe is what's alleged here. A little more than $760K, with the rest of the $9 million plus being paid out to the 6 commentators, with the majority of it going to Dave Rubin and Tim Pool, who together pocketed about as much as Hunter Biden made working for Burisma for 5 years. Just as a small point of comparison there. The only difference being that Hunter Biden has never had charges brought against him for any of his work with Burisma, and this money is absolutely flowing from a state-owned Russian entity. Do Tim and Dave get to keep that money? I have no idea. I'm not sure. My guess would be yes. That would be my guess. My other guess would be that Lauren and her husband are probably either already arrested under sealed indictment or will be soon. And yeah, that's pretty easy. Is your sense that the commentators will walk away from this without a scratch? In general, yes. I don't think this will affect any of the commentators too much because conservatives have no standards, conservatives have no values, and conservatives have no patriotic allegiance to the United States or to Canada. So at the end of the day, none of them will give a fuck. Despite the fact that this is, and again, we should make there's a whole list of things where the conservatives are doing the actual thing that they have conspiracies around the left for doing, right? Like, this is the deep state. Argue it's just the states in Russia. This is what far right people accuse Israel and AIPAC of doing, right? This is what's actually happening. Why are conservatives always evil like this? Putting a guy who tried to coup the government, being literal foreign agents for a fascist dictatorship. So one of the things I said about lobbying was people accuse lobbyists of changing people's minds, and lobbying is a big deal. That's not really true. What lobbyists do is they find politicians that look like they're going to win, probably, generally, and who basically already agree with them. That's what a lobbyist does. A lobbyist doesn't find a politician, bribe them to change their mind. They find people that probably already agree with them, which is why lobbyists and politicians tend to agree with each other, because that's who the lobbyists go and find. A lobbyist would never go to somebody who is 180 opposed to them and try to bribe their way into having them flip their opinion entirely. So it doesn't generally work that way. And with foreign propaganda, it's basically the same thing. You're finding people, like Russia would never come to me and try to pay me off because it would take an ungodly amount of money, at least $50,000. I'm just kidding. It would take an ungodly amount of money, and even at that, there's no like guarantee that I wouldn't just report it to the State Department because I love my country and I don't like Russia. It would be too risky. It would be too stupid. It would be bad misallocation of funds. So when you're finding people to do this type of propaganda through, you're trying to find people who are already aligning with you like 50 to 90%, right? Depending on what subject you're trying to push. So if you're finding somebody who's already like 80% on your side, they don't really view it the same way that you view it, right? So I would view it as a betrayal for your country, but in their minds, like their country has already betrayed them, right? Like they're already thinking, Lauren Chen might be thinking, well, Trudeau tried to lock our bank accounts and they're letting in all these Indians that are taking all of our houses and they're cucked out to foreign influence and Jews and everything anyway. So for them, like, okay, well, who cares if I accept Russian money? Like, it's just, it's the same thing as all these other fuckers are doing anyway, right? How many conservatives, again, do you see tweeting about AIPAC, when they're talking about this stuff? Like, it's at all comparable. It's not, by the way. Yeah, so for them, it's like, it's not really as egregious of an action. DBZ M1K3. Even if people like Tim Pool have been duped, how can they not question their own talking points if Russia is happy to keep them pushing these ideas? Surely it brings a lot of their views into question if they're aligning with Russia's motives. Man, what a waste of 100 euros to imply something so fucking retarded that Tim Pool or any of these people would have any ounce of honor, integrity, or introspection, self-reflection. It'll never happen. Of course not. Why would they ever stop and think? Like, isn't it kind of weird that somebody thought my talking points were so convenient to them that they would pay me $500,000 a year? It's so crazy that they would take that much money. Bro, I remember thinking for a few months into my Kick contract, I was like, God damn, this is a lot of money. Like, I remember being paranoid for a little bit. Like, am I going to get f***ed on this some way? Like, I had to think through this for a while. I was like, is this possible? Like, is there something I'm missing here? I mean, I figure it comes from the gambling stuff, I would imagine. But also, they don't dictate any content to me. And they ban me. When the videos are getting literally 1,000 views, how the do you not ask where the money is coming from? Yeah, it's actually so wacky and wild. How can you not when you're getting paid that much money? That's crazy. Over under on them knowing. I'm 95% confident Tim Pool had some idea. On them like knowing that something sketchy was happening, 99.9%. But like on them knowing it was like Russia and taking content direction, probably not. I don't know, bro. I don't know anything anymore. Never mind. I don't know anything anymore. Because I would say that these guys probably, I'd say you'd be smarter than that, but I don't know anymore. Why these guys are so bad at everything. If you were gonna, I don't even want to say anything. No, because other people who just watch movies would know this. If you were gonna approach two foreign nationals to do propaganda like this, the Russians should have approached them either in person or on some encrypted communication network, or they should have approached them on some open network and then shifted the conversation over to encryption networks. And then on those encryption networks, they should have been speaking about how to do this operation where Lauren and her husband wouldn't have been directly implicated. It would have been a conversation where we say like, hey, listen, we want you guys to work for RT. We want you to do X, Y, and Z. We're gonna approach you with these people that look legit. Just don't ask too many questions, and then we're going to get you on our payroll. You'd never be able to prove that in criminal court, right? They could just act stupid and clueless the entire fucking time. All of the money could flow through in the exact same way. They could even give bullshit ass explanations. I've gotten bullshit explanations for wire transfers before, where people, I think when I did stuff for ACR, for gambling, like casino websites, they say, oh, sometimes when it comes through, it's got like a weird note on it for like transfers that are like, oh, okay, I guess it's probably true. Because when I used to play on, I think Poker Stars, I think some of the wire transfers sometimes would be unlabeled or be labeled weird so that your bank doesn't flag it. Like they could have set this up in a way where Lauren Chen and her husband would have been easily, in my opinion, beyond reproach, right? They would have been like, oh shit, I didn't know, I was fooled the entire time. But they didn't. They had blatant conversations on fucking Discord. On Discord. At least on Telegram, you can at least like be stupid and think it was encrypted, but it's Discord. It's Discord. It's Discord. What are you doing? Like, how are you so stupid? How are you so stupid? Like, did you have to use the emojis that bad? Could it be that the Russians intended for them to get caught? Isn't it destabilizing of the biggest creators getting caught? Kind of. Maybe, yeah. I mean, technically it all benefits them at the end of the day, yeah. And the Russian people, they used Gmail and Discord and all that shit as well, yeah, so who knows? So where do we go from here? I mean, it's pretty clear Russian influence doesn't scare conservatives due to how many people came to these people's defense. Here is the problem, okay? This is the issue right now, is we are divided into two countries. That culture and conflict in the Middle East book lives in my head rent-free. There's a saying that Arabs used to have or still have, and it's such a good saying because it explains like Islam and jihad and Middle Eastern culture for Arabs. And it's me against my brother and I against my cousin, and my cousin and I against the world. It implicates the concept of, what was the name for this? Of matched, there was a name for this, matched aggression. Balanced opposition, I think is what the author calls it, right? And the thing is and we feel this in a meme way, but I don't think we feel this in a true way anymore, right? When you bully the fuck out of your brother or sister, you bully the fuck out of your brother and sister because they're your brother or sister. You bully the fuck out of them. Yeah, you know, why not? Maybe even you and a sibling bully your brother or sister, okay? But if somebody else comes from the outside to bully your sibling, you're going to whip that motherfucker's ass, okay? This is your sibling. You can bully them. It's your family, okay? 1-to-1. But an outside person coming in doing that is absolutely not okay. And it's supposed to be the same way with countries as well, right? This relative structure should ripple out to everything, to where in the United States should be able to go at each other's throats from Democrats to Republicans as hard as we want. But if there's an external enemy involved, it should be no doubt that we would be unified in opposition to that enemy. There'd be no doubt. But because conservatives have somehow weaponized or leveraged this concept of, you know, the Democratic communists and these Russian investigations are just political, partisan hackery, Russiagate, right? Well, now the foreign enemy is implicating the domestic enemy, and now the division is different. And we're not unified at home at all. We're not unified at home at all. Yeah, but the problem is that Republicans are literally an internal enemy. That's fine. That's okay. The Democrats and the Republicans should be able to be internal enemies to each other, but we should recognize that when there's an external threat, you don't side with the external threat ever. That's crazy. That's insane. That like somebody going to beat up your little sister or little brother and then you join the other person? That should be inconceivable. It should be inconceivable that would ever happen. But that is what's happening, right? It's not good. It's not good. My dad, who's from Baghdad, told me about that Arabic saying, but you forgot. It's me against my brother first, then my brother and I against my cousin. Isn't that what I just said? Would you support Russians leaking Trump campaign internal memos if it led to his defeat in the election? Like, in this specific instance, I would say yes, because they've already like solicited the help from foreigners and because of the situations involving like Russia and all of that. But in principle, like in a general sense, no, one-sided leaks are not good, especially from foreign enemies. Absolutely not. Right? If it was like a Democrat versus a Republican and China or Iran or somebody were to leak bad information about the Republican side so the Democrats win, no, you should never, ever, ever want that. You should never want that, ever. That's not good. Although Republicans cheerlead it when Julian Assange did it to the Democrats, even when Julian himself explicitly said he wouldn't leak information on Trump, which he did explicitly say. His excuse was, well, Trump hasn't done anything privately worse than what he's done publicly, so we're not going to leak anything about him. America needs a common enemy, but that's impossible because we have too many cultures and migrants. We will hate each other more. 9/11 fixed some things. I have never in my life been, and maybe this might only apply to America because of as much as it triggers, white nationalists and shit, I'm sorry. But the fact that America is a nation of immigrants without like a united common ethnic background, maybe we just do integration or diversity, maybe we do it better. But there has never been a threat to democracy in this country that's been worse than racist white people. I mean, I'm sorry. The Civil War was like far-right white people, right? Everything that's happening today, okay, with the support of Trump and basically fascism, right, is far-right racist white people. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. Like, I haven't seen the Mexican uprising. All right, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen the crazy Muslim uprising that was supposed to come after 9/11. Those guys were foreigners. They weren't Americans. All right, there's something amazing about our country, and that's that we're able to take people from different backgrounds and integrate them really well, better than Europe. I can stand in front of a Muslim in this country and say Muhammad. All right, I don't know if I can do that, even in Europe. But that's because none of the Muslims in the United States that even say they're Muslims. It reminds me of like Hassan saying, I'm culturally Muslim. Like, what do you mean you're culturally Muslim? What is that? Do you like keep halal or whatever? Like, no. Usually, 99% of the time, it just means they don't eat pork because they just didn't grow up eating it. Can you paint me a picture of how the U.S. gets back on a united against outsiders track? I need a little hopium. Hopefully once Trump is gone. The populist shit, brain rot. Because what populism does is it turns you against your own government. Your government is just like, your government is, it's so important. Your government is like the embodiment. In a democracy, your government is the embodiment of the will of the people. And if you hate the government, it's easy for that to become a hatred for the people and for your country. And then it's easy for that to turn into, thinking like everybody's either the same or that your other countries are better than your own, right? It's not good. I think Elon is ruining America more than Trump right now. Elon is having an insanely negative impact on America. I see that some countries are banning X. Dude, Elon Musk is the saddest fucking example of everything. Oh my God. It is so horrible what has happened to Elon Musk. Let me reiterate, okay, that for as much as I hate this fucking man, and I do hate him, I think he's an evil I need to stop saying evil. He's just very, very, very bad for the health of this country, okay? Regardless of your feelings, and regardless of how much I shit on the QA of the cars and the fact I just don't like electric cars in general, Tesla was awesome, okay? Elon brought the United States back to the world stage in like 3 different ways. Tesla was awesome. The U.S. was like the leader in something that should have been celebrated by every American because it's green, right? It's electric vehicles. It pushed forward electric vehicles on this planet by like 10 years, all right? Like Tesla, the concept and the execution, right, was really phenomenal. It was awesome. Sending rockets into space again was awesome, okay? Having Americans going to the ISS on American-made rockets, that's awesome. That was headed by a company, not to trigger the right, okay? But this is a immigrant, South African immigrant that came to the United States and founded a company here. Why? Because the United States is awesome, because we've got one of the best. Did we watch this on stream, or was I listening to somebody talk off stream, where somebody said the thing I like about the United States, it might even have been Tim Pool. Who said this? Somebody said the thing that I like about the United States the most is that it allows you to become the best version of yourself, which I think is true. All of that is so cool. But then what he's done with, the satellite, Starlink, that's also really cool. As much as we don't talk about it here, and maybe a lot of you guys don't use it in cities, and maybe I'm overplaying it a little bit, I've heard really positive things about Starlink from people that live outside of major cities. That in areas where you traditionally just got dog shit internet, or when you're traveling or hiking or you're in areas you just don't have an internet connection, Starlink has been a really phenomenal deployment of satellites for the purposes of internet in a way that like satellite internet delivered around the world just had never been done before. So to be involved in like all of that, and then like X, it's so horrible because his behavior on X is everything that conservatives accused Democrats of doing. He's insanely hyper-partisan. I'm not going to say he algorithmically favors right-wing content because I don't think that's true, but he absolutely promotes right-wing content on his own Twitter account, which is the largest Twitter account on the site, right? I think, isn't he the most followed Twitter account? And he's retweeting or replying to that end wokeness and the, who's the one that doxes all the people, the libs of TikTok? He reposts like AI images of Democratic candidates. He's like outwardly and avowedly politically partisan. He took a public company, made it private, so we have no more insight into it anymore. We have no idea what the is going on with that company. It's just, and it was one of the largest. Is it the largest news social media site? I say that, but Facebook still has a surprising amount of news that gets posted on it. It might have been. It was one of the largest news sites. To take it and destroy it so much is just unbelievable. It's so unbelievably horrible. My God. Like, yeah, he turned one of the largest social media platforms into like a Nazi safe haven. It's just unreal. It would be so much more understandable if it were at least a true free speech platform, but he shoots himself in the foot when he targets you for removing ads and shit. Oh, sure. Or I was just going to say just like the blatant promoting of all right-wing content. It's just like insane. It feels like the DOJ indictment is a major blow to trusting/relying on alt/independent media, but they are practically immune to having any sort of integrity issue. I hope it is. Like what I do, you have to understand this, okay? You have to understand this. You have to understand this, all right? I have a very, very, very good, okay, listen, generally I try to glaze myself because all you guys shit on me and everybody else shits on me, okay? What I do as far as research and investigation goes into the issues that I talk about, it is truly like the very, very, very first level of doing actual research. It's like I say that like even I see you guys will post like, oh, Destiny does like hundreds of hours of research or does like 8-hour streams. Not really. We probably do like 1 to 3 hour streams reading stuff at the end. Maybe it's like a 6-hour stream if we're like super driven on some day. But for the most part, I don't even really do that much. And I'm already like ahead of every other independent media person in the world easily with the amount of research I do. Guaranteed, 100%. I'll put I'll debate anybody in the world on Jan 6th, and I know I'll win. I'll debate anybody in the world on vaccines, and I know I'll win. I'll debate anybody in the world on, I'll debate Mearsheimer on Russia, Ukraine, and I know I'll win. And it's not because I'm an ultra super intelligent person that just grasps every fact that blah, blah, and it's not because I do research. It's just because I read like a little bit, just barely a little bit, okay? Barely a little bit. I think I'm pretty exceptional in some ways, but like to be like the best in the world at what I do, I don't think I'm that exceptional. But the competition, the playing field is just so horrible. It's just, yeah, the standards in alternative media are non-existent. The bar is in hell, okay? The standards are non-existent here. And I hope that one day, like it becomes a norm that you expect people to at least publish notes or have, I don't want to say have sources because I don't believe anybody when somebody cites a book, I don't believe it ever. I don't think they've ever read that book. I don't believe that people read books when they cite them, even when they quote them. I just don't believe it. I don't know if that means alternative media people should be forced to publish book reports every month, or if they should have some kind of note or just a stream where they're reading through an article or something. Like it's ridiculous. Like Matt Walsh not knowing Matt Walsh thinking, after doing a whole documentary on trans people, thinking that 3 million people, that 3 million kids have been going through like hormone blockers. Like, the issue isn't that he misremembered a fact or he didn't know a thing. It's that it's an impossible amount of negligence to have gotten through an entire documentary and to have not known anything about. That's impossible. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, the standards here are non-existent. It's insane.
I don't think we have exact numbers, but if we're talking about the drugs, I mean, millions.
Millions? How did you do a whole documentary on this? And you're like 4 orders of magnitude off. Millions of kids on puberty blockers? Millions?
You're talking about hormone blockers.
Yeah.
Millions of kids have been on hormone blockers? Really?
I actually am glad he said that. That is your guess. That truly shows what your state of mind is and how disconnected you are from reality, if that's what you feel, right? I like asking engaging questions like, what is the percentage of people that you think are this? And somebody's like, 98% of people probably feel this way. And it's like, okay, well, we looked at the data and it's actually like 12%. I think you're a little bit disconnected, buddy. Millions of children on puberty blockers?
It says over the last 5 years, there were at least 4,780 adolescents who started puberty blockers and had a prior gender dysphoria diagnosis.
It says it's kind of undercounted, but that
would be a big undercounting.
Less than 1,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess,
Oh, so Tim is trying to post his way through it, which he'll probably be able to do because, again, conservatives have no standards, remember. Are people in mainstream media doing your type of research, like reading indictments? Sometimes they do, but they bring on experts. We've watched some where I'm like, oh, this lady, she must be a lawyer, or she like really knows what she's talking about. The nice thing about this type of thing, and this is probably one of the areas that I excel in, is you're supposed to bring in experts to talk about things. Like, oh, you're a lawyer, you email me, you want to hop on stream and argue about things? Okay, cool, come on. Or, oh, you're a guy that has done research here. Oh, okay, we'll come on and chat, right? That's like the benefit of having a platform like this. Also, remember, and people forget this too, okay? The reason why I am able to win debates or why I can sometimes come off well-versed in things, it's not because I'm pretending that I have the ability to learn every subject. I'm just regurgitating what I've seen either the field in general as a consensus say or what I've read like an expert say. That's all I'm doing. My only job here as a generalist, right, is to synthesize what other people have said and then give that to you. Not pretend that through that synthesis I've gained some deeper insight, into the field. Or I'm going to tell you why all of these guys are actually incorrect and I could give you like the one true key insight. Like, it's just a synthesis of like other people's information. That should be all you go to somebody like me for. I'm not super well, read into any particular field or like super deep dived into any particular field. Like, I'm just here synthesizing information for you. But that's the whole point of having like, oh, here's our correspondent for whatever. Tim Pool, upon reflection, I understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts, provide an additional $200 billion at once. Absolutely epic. That tweet you have on screen is baffling. It took a PR mess for him to understand Ukraine. Wait, no, he's memeing. This is just a meme. He's just like shit posting now. I have an appointment at like 5 o'clock somewhere today. I'm just saying if I can get it rescheduled. It's kind of brutal to eat my streaming day. Can you say more about the Sam Harris thing? You hinted at it last night. They just called me and chatted, and like if there was a current event that came up, if Sam was able to like call and hop on and like do like a 30-minute chat. Not hop on. I don't think he would want to be on stream. Or I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
If you're wondering what this Russia disinformation looks like, here it is. If you see the following narratives on the internet, it could be Russian interference. Are you ready? Record inflation, unaffordable prices for food and essential goods, risk of job losses for white Americans, privileges for people of color, threat of crime coming from people of color and immigrants, overspending on foreign policy. The United States government wants us to believe that the Russians are using Republican talking points to interfere with the election. If you're wondering what...
So if you want to be able to discuss this with more nuance, it's not so much that these aren't illegitimate talking points. The goal of Russia is not to fabricate talking points that aren't real. It's to just find highly divisive issues and then amplify the fuck out of them, right? That's the issue. And I'm aware that this comes from a larger, like 250-page indictment. We might look into a little bit today, but
president. But anyway, we continue. Ben Shapiro.
Are isolationist on foreign policy, but they're isolationist on foreign policy mainly because they believe that the United States is a nefarious force in the world. They're sort of Howard Zinn or Noam Chomsky with regard to American foreign policy. America is actually bad.
Have you seen evidence of Russia using left-wing talking points to sow division as well? Yeah, in the Mueller indictments for the IRA, I believe that they try to attack Hillary Clinton and stuff using like BLM talking points. I don't know if there are exhibits in here. On or about October 16, 2016, defendants and the co-conspirators used the organization-controlled Instagram account Woke Blacks to post the following message. A particular hype and hatred for Trump is misleading the people and forcing blacks to vote Hillary. We cannot resort to the lesser of two devils. Then we'd surely be better off without voting at all. On organization-controlled Instagram account Blacktivist, that read in part, choose peace and vote for Jill Stein. Trust me, it's not a wasted vote. An organization-controlled United Muslims of America, posting an anti-vote message. American Muslims are boycotting elections today. Most of the American Muslim voters refuse to vote for Hillary Clinton because she wants to continue the war on Muslims in the Middle East and voted yes for invading Iraq. Organization-controlled Facebook account Stop AI. The post alleged that Hillary Clinton has already committed voter fraud during the Democrat Iowa caucus. That 10 GOP account was a fucking Russian account. I don't know who anybody remembers this account. This had like 250,000 followers. I think I've interacted with this account before in 2016. I think we all thought this was just like the Tennessee GOP official Twitter account or whatever.
I gotta ask just a couple questions. You can make me feel less retarded about this whole topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it normal for independent journalists to accept money to do what essentially is like pro one party content? So for example, let's say even if you are Republican in your nature, and well, not nature, but like in the values that you espouse, is it normal to accept money from political parties or independent groups in favor of said party?
Probably, yeah. Like if you get hired by any media company, like if you're working for the Daily Wire or if you're working for, like the people in Progressive Victory are all going to be like progressive talking points. Like, yeah, that's probably pretty normal. You get paid by like the Stephen Crowder people, the Young Turks, Breaking Points. Like, yeah, I would say it's probably pretty normal, yeah.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood, but isn't the whole point of independent journalism that you are free from any kind of corporate interest or government influence?
Wow, wouldn't that be great? That's not true, and it's never been true. I agree with you. That would be the point.
But that's the definition of that's the one that they espouse. Like when they talk about we're 100% funded by you guys as super chatters, or we're 100% funded, through our own labor, not through corporate interests or like direct advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be that.
If that's how they advertise themselves, then yeah. But the reality is, if you have any kind of sponsorship whatsoever, you probably have to keep that in mind to some extent, right?
Okay, yes. Mm-hmm. And let's say I agree that, if you take some fucking ad for Manscaped or something like that, it's probably not as corporately involved as, let's say, taking an ad from some political focus group that like runs super PACs for Trump. I feel like those two things are very distinctly different, no?
Like I agree that they're distinctly different, but there can be overlap in surprising ways. So like the statements that I made about like Trump, about the Trump people getting shot at Trump rallies or whatever, like people were reaching out to people that didn't even sponsor anymore, to old sponsors, trying to get me like canceled from those sponsors and shit. And if I still would have been carrying like Surfshark or whatever, they probably would have dropped me. So even companies that aren't political can be influenced if you stir up enough shit. So
right.
Now, is that the same as I'm like dictating a media diet to you? Maybe not, but like would it keep you from saying something that you feel strongly about that's very on the fringes? Maybe, yeah. Okay,
cool. Now, I've seen claims that these guys didn't know what they were doing it. Now, if you were to steelman their position, how would you do it?
I might be able to buy that for Lauren Southern, Taylor Hanson, and Matt Christensen, only because I haven't seen in particular what they're getting paid, and maybe for Benny Johnson. But for Dave Rubin and Tim Pool, that was an ungodly amount of money.
Wait, how much were the Lauren Southerns getting paid?
I don't. None of that information was published in the indictment. But what we do know is, I think it was a little over $10 million was paid out in a year, and like 8.7 million of that went to those three commentators: Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson. So it would have been a little over $1 million or around $1 million for the other three. So I don't know how much they were all paid.
I mean, all of those people are like infinitely smaller YouTubers, so I think in proportion to what they normally make, this is still an exponential amount of money.
That is possible, but like when you look at the channel, I'm pretty sure Lauren and the Matt guy, I think those were the two people that were bringing in most of the views. Dave Rubin, bro, we were looking through this channel. Dave Rubin's videos are getting like 700 views a video, 3,000 views. Yeah, it's like embarrassing. 2.9 thousand views, 513 views, 1.4K views. Yeah.
Okay, but I think I remember reading one of the texts from the transcripts, and I think at one point, I think they were asked to do the whole Tucker Carlson grocery store thing, and then one of the producers for one of the commentary channels was like, I feel like this is very shilly. And then one of the Russian handlers was like, still, we need it. And then the producer kind of acquiesced. Mm-hmm. Do we know what video that is that Tim Pool or Dave Rubin ended up covering the Tucker Carlson thing?
So that was the Tucker Carlson thing. I don't know if any of the 6 commentators covered that video. I think that was just posted to the Tenant Media social media account, I believe.
Okay. And when you hear Tim Pool say he doesn't know, is it just because of the money that you feel like he should have known better?
Absolutely. What an insane thing to be getting so much money and not question. You're getting paid $400,000 a month. You're getting paid
when
about...
I saw $100K per video, I literally jumped out of my seat. That was like Mr. Beast levels of income for a sponsorship.
Yeah, and not even just for a video. It was for a video with no call to action, with no product being promoted, without any specific content direction. Like how? That's for what, a 12-minute video? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. He's not charging those rates. He's not charging 20% of those rates to anybody in the industry for a video like that. Nobody's paying for a video like that. That's insane. Yeah.
No.
By the way, I've noticed Tim Pool has become more hostile to Ukraine over the past year. Like, it sounds to me that if he's getting paid that kind of money and they're not handing him some sort of script with some sort of buzzwords to say or specific topic to cover, like, it sounds to me that he was being fed lines that he needed to say, like, especially for that kind of money they're giving him.
It's possible, but if that's true... I don't think that's true, because he directly said that wasn't true in his tweet. And if he directly contradicts that, and he knows how sprawling this investigation is now, and there's evidence to the contrary, oof, that looks really bad.
Well, Tim Pool's an idiot, so it is something you do.
Maybe, sure, but that would be really dumb. Yeah.
Just to come back to the money, it is so ungodly to think about how much that is, because I can tell, just for the viewer so they can understand, imagine a viewer averaging about 1 million views per video. If they're doing advertisement and they're just doing some run-of-the-mill advertisement where their channel's not necessarily connected to the product itself, but think of Surfshark, think of Manscaped, they'll advertise on anything irrespective of whether it's geared towards men or tech bros. You're looking at anywhere from 8,000 USD to maybe 12,000 if you're lucky. Now, some channels are a little bit more highly specified, so think of Marquise Brownlee. Now, if he's averaging 1 million views per video and he's doing tech-related stuff and he gets a tech sponsorship, you could see him going up to 30,000, maybe 45,000 for some of his sponsors if he was to take one. Why? Because it's like a target audience or finance.
And these are for million-plus views videos, not for 1K or 3K views on a video.
Right.
And these are for a call to action for a specific product.
Is insane for videos that are not performing well. This is outperforming the market by like 10x, 100x in terms of like the actual viewership. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the money kept coming in, I know for me, if I was offered this kind of money, I would be asking why they're paying me so much more, like 20 times more than anyone's ever paid me. So I'd be asking questions like, where is this money coming from? Is it legal? But I think as a political commentary channel who's being asked to do politically inclined content on behalf of like one party or one group, I think you have to be extra suspicious.
1,000,000,000%. Like if this was a deal from Rumble, I'd be a little bit more like, okay, maybe you're, they got I think they're publicly traded. You got a lot of investors. Sure, maybe for Rumble, I'd be like, okay, but Tenet Media, literally, you're like you're the face of this channel, right? There are 6 content creators brought on, and I think the most well known were like you, Dave, and Benny and Lauren. Like but you are inarguably you're the largest face on this channel. I thought it was initially a Tim Pool funded media channel. That's what I thought initially when it was first announced, because he's obviously the largest face, that's being used to promote this. And for him to not even question where that money is coming from is negligent at best.
I just don't believe I don't believe he didn't question it, because his producer was questioning it. Well, not questioning it, but questioning like the kind of content. Like, even the producer was being fed sometimes like, this feels very shilly. There's no way as a producer you don't get told these kinds of things and you don't discuss it with the person you're working for. That's just not a thing that happens. Yeah. If I was telling someone to work with a company and they're saying this, they're coming back to me. Any advertisement deal, any kind of production deal, I'm not just a mouthpiece, right? And Tim Pool takes pride in the fact that he does a lot of their own research, or he looks and he reads over this stuff.
Investigative journalist.
There's no way these conversations didn't happen behind the channels. That's not.
Well,
you're talking about the highest level of like, I closed my eyes when a bag of money was offered to me. That just doesn't seem plausible.
Well, we know Tim Pool's a massive grifter. So yeah, in all likelihood, he probably knew something fishy was going on, but didn't really care because the money was so good. Went with it. Figured if anything happens, he can just, act dumb.
Maybe actually, yeah. I mean, it might be enough for them to never actually question it. They know it's probably corrupt, but like, why question it and ruin your fucking money bag, right?
You don't think they questioned it at all?
No, I'm saying.
Oh no, they did.
Like, no. Like, in terms of when I say not question, I mean, they're like, yeah, maybe it is coming from bad sources, but who the cares? I'm getting paid bank, and then that's it. You just don't ever say anything else about it, right?
Well, okay, actually, I'm curious. Would you not be worried? Like, I know I would be if I was doing political commentary and some entity that's not entirely clear is offering me hundreds of thousands. I would be like, is this illegal? That would be something that would cross.
Well, bro, I worried about my kick contract for that. Yeah, I was like, I don't know, man, this seems like a lot of money. I'm not sure sometimes. I kind of wonder. Yeah, I was worried about if I was approached by, like, if Progressive Victory was coming to me like, hey, Destin, we want you to approach this shit. We're going to pay you $100,000 a month instead of, that's like, yeah, it should set off so many alarm bells in your head, especially when it's a political company. Yeah, it's a political company headed by a political person that no offense, is not that wealthy, okay? Lauren Chen is not that successful. The Blaze doesn't pay that well, okay? She's like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and drop $500,000 on you every month. It's absurd. It's so stupid. Like, well, in the best case scenario, all of your credibility is gone in terms of being able to critically analyze anything. Why would I trust this guy to be able to find any type of conspiracy ever if it was literally you were part of it? You were like, it would be less embarrassing for him to say that he was compromised and he knew it, rather than for him to be like, oh, I had no idea. I was a useful dipshit the entire time. Like, how could you be so stupid?
And I think we have to stop attributing everything to incompetence or to all this like, oh, just like, what do you call it? Weaponized incompetence? Who's? I feel like you're the one who talked.
Yes.
Was that you?
Yeah, correct. Yep. Okay. And I shut up.
This is what it feels like. People are weaponizing incompetence once again. I'm sorry. This is some of the highest levels of retardation for people who consider themselves very politically active and in the know, and also conspiracy brained. Like, they will pick apart everything to fit their narrative, but then a bag of money is offered to them and they didn't question nothing.
It's insane.
I'm sorry. You're selling me a bridge.
And like, I'm pointing this out. I want to be able to know this. From in 1 year, this company paid out, to 3 content creators in 1 year, to Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson, about as much money as Hunter Biden made working for Burisma for 5 years. Okay, in 1 year, they got this much money. Like, how can you talk about any conspiracy ever? This is the most obvious shit in the universe. And yeah, you're right. Conservatives do this thing where they'll sit in a room, they'll watch a girl and a guy go into the other room, and they'll hear her screaming for 30 minutes and then come back out like bloodied and bruised, and you'll be like, bro, did that guy just beat the shit out of her? And the conservatives will look you in the eye, dead in the eye, into the ovals of your soul. They will look into you and they will say, I didn't actually see it happen. Did you? How can you improve that? Like, why would you assume that? Do you even fucking know? Like, they're the most shameless bad faith people need it. They're shameless.
And they always go through the trouble of like connecting the dots.
Oh, yeah.
Hillary was here at this time of day, and at the same time, Epstein's plane was here. So I'm not saying, but we could infer, right? They constantly make these inferences that people are always operating under this. But all of a sudden, when they're literally offered hundreds of thousands of dollars that are unreasonable for what they're doing, they want you to say, well, do you have any proof? Do you have like direct proof that he said he took?
Well, yeah.
I don't know. To me, just beyond the double standard. they can look at everything as critically as they want through their biased lens, but the moment it's their own like actions under the microscope, all of a sudden they're retards.
Yeah,
it's just too much for
like,
me.
and it's so easy. Just like imagine it on the other end. Like imagine if I'm involved. Imagine we find out that Progressive Victory was paying me $50,000. I'm sorry, we'll say $500,000. I guess that's what this is worth. $500,000 a month, and then you found out that Progressive Victory was actually funded by fucking Israel or by some Jewish org. Mike, it would be over for me, bro. Like it would. That would be like you're getting paid that much money and it was funded by Israel and you had all these talking points. Like what? Like it would be over. It'd be over. It'd be over. Yeah.
And I'd be making a video about it the next day if I found out Destiny was taking money from an organization that was funded by AIPAC and he was being paid per video some absurd amount. 1,000%. I'm like, Destiny's definitely shilling, without question. Because how aggressively he talks about this stuff and how he's been. If I found out you were any way being paid, I would 100% publicly say you are definitely shilling.
As an investigative
journalist,
journalist,
turn around and try to use that to shield. No.
Yeah, they're clearly lying. Like again, it's in the transcript. Like their producer was talking about how this is a little too shilly and it's making me feel uncomfortable. Like I mean I've noticed this too. Like you can see Tim Pool's stance on Russia-Ukraine change a little bit, and it's gotten more towards literally claiming Ukraine is an enemy of the United States versus what he was saying before that, well, Russia isn't that bad, and since they're not that bad, we shouldn't get involved. Like, clearly he's being fed lines. Clearly.
And I liked his tweet where he's like, this show is just the culture wars, and we deal with very unpolitical subjects like spirituality in video games. And I'm like, bro, kill yourself. Oh my God. Yeah, but...
Yeah, the guy who complains about fucking Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah.
You know, I got offered a sponsorship deal by this, I think it was like a credit card company, or no, it's like a debit card thing that also helps your credit. Okay. And they were offering like a crazy amount. I just did my Google searches on them, and like I'd see like other YouTubers that sponsored them, and I was just like looking into this stuff, and just some about it just seemed off. They kind of popped out of nowhere. They're kind of new, and sure enough, within a year, they ended up being defunct because what they were doing was essentially illegal. But it was one of those things where the money was really good for a company that didn't have much of a reputation. The sensible thing is just like, where's this coming from? Is this legitimate? You look into it. Now, if I was doing sponsored content where the entirety of the video had to be about a specific topic, that means that they're sending in a script with overlaying ideas. My producer has to overlook that and then bring it to me, and then we have to have a production meeting. And then you guys have to have a discussion about the fact that you're getting paid $100,000 for this shitbag video. The last 5 you did for this company didn't perform that well or didn't even get a return on investment at all. It's just hard for me to imagine you're sitting there in that production company.
You know what I'm curious? I wonder if anybody else in his company knew how much money he was getting paid for that. Like, do you think they paid their fucking... Do you think their guests knew? Wait!
They know. They know.
No,
there's plenty of them who know.
Not the guest, because I think I was a guest on this stupid fucking Culture Wars. That was the show that I went on, wasn't it? Was it the Culture Wars one?
Not the guest, no.
It was. This was the one that I went on. He got paid $100,000. I made $100,000 for Tim Pool in this fucking episode. Fuck me. This is such bullshit. Yeah, and there's no... Yeah, I wonder... No. I'm sorry. When I said the other people, I meant the other people in his company, because do you think they would have wanted a slice of that? I wonder if he just, like, pocketed a lot of that money on his own.
No. They know the amounts that are being paid. The reason why I know they know is because when they're going through these contracts, it's going through associations. Tim Pool has assistants. The assistants see the contracts. The assistants see the invoices. They're forwarding it. Tim Pool's not getting everything directly and handling all the back end. You just don't... At that level, when you're having...
I bet he does. Unless he's a total dipshit, I bet he manages a lot of it.
Well, didn't he have a producer that was the middleman talking to these people?
No. The producers in the indictment, I believe, were producers who were brought on by the two founders, Lauren Chen and her husband. I don't think they were hired by Tim's people. They were other people that were brought on to work for Tenet. But they're not like, I don't think these are Russians. They're quote unquote victims of the scam. But yeah, I don't think those were Tim's people. Yeah. I want to hear statements by Tim's coworkers like that, the crazy dudes. I want to know if any of them knew how much money his company was bringing in from this Tenet deal. I'm so curious about that.
And again, speaking of the money, like I've been offered some ridiculous deals. Like I remember, like the most stupid one. Somebody said I could make like $200,000 in 3 months with this like weird food charity thing. And, like, I just knew it was bullshit. Like, the guy was just clearly fucking lying. And he was trying to basically scam me into promoting some shitty cereal company he had.
Okay,
Like,
but I think you're being uncharitable because the idea is not that they're coming to you. Imagine if Destiny came to you and then he offered you the deal. Because I think Tim Pool got offered this through Lauren Chen.
Yep.
So
Okay,
if
that
there's a
makes
level
more
of
sense.
trust there.
Right,
And I think
yeah,
if
that
I'm
makes
being
more
charitable
sense.
to Tim, then I could understand a little bit more. But even then, it's just too
That's
much
still
money.
weird.
You should know
That's
the metrics.
still weird. Yeah.
Okay, actually, let me ask you about Lauren Chen because as a fellow Montrealer, finding out she's a Russian asset's fascinating. What do you think about her involvement in all this?
She knew the whole time. She was directly involved. She's like probably already arrested, would be my guess.
She's arrested?
That would be my guess, yeah.
Okay, the
He
two
would have
people,
had to have known.
the two people that are indicted under this thing.
Are the two Russians, yep.
Okay, but those are not Lauren Chen, but you think it's like a secret indictment kind of thing?
Yeah, this indictment was secret. That's why this was a sealed indictment. It was unsealed. My guess is the other two are probably already arrested, Lauren and her husband. Because in this indictment, it lays out, mens rea, it lays out like criminal intent for Lauren Chen and her husband. Like when it talks about her Googling,
Yeah.
like when she asks one of the Russians, well, first of all, when her and her husband talk about getting paid, they call them the Russians over and over again. And then it also, there's a time where she's talking to somebody. She asks her something. Okay. Today marks 2 weeks since I submitted the invoice for August. Any idea for the delay? We're signing the large contracts and need to be certain we will get the funding to pay these people. When the persona didn't respond, Lauren Chen, she Googled the current time in Moscow because she knew that they were
Whoa.
Russians. Yeah, like she's fucked. They're like this
She's
right
toast.
here. The only reason they have this is like, in my opinion, is laying out mens rea for her and probably her husband that they knew the entire time. And a lot of this sealed indictment includes that. So my guess is there's indictments on the way for them if they're not already arrested. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but.
There has to be. There's just no possible way.
Wait, but they're Canadian. Are
Yep.
they even going to fall under the DOJ's scope?
Yeah. Yeah, they
The
would.
criminal behavior, well, one, she has a company in Tennessee that she was routing most of the money through for Tenet Media. And two, a lot of the money laundering, because a lot of these transactions were mislabeled. It was wire fraud, basically, coming in through New York, a bank in New York. So then the only question is, would Canada extradite or would Canada do like complimentary charges?
They would.
They
Yeah.
would extradite. I just didn't know if they could be charged.
Yeah. So, yep.
I'm not terribly familiar with Lauren Chen's whole political view. Is she like a crazy wacko fascist?
Basically, yeah.
Or, okay, she is. I only debated her once on veganism, and she said that she couldn't get vitamin Naruto if she went vegan.
I don't know what that means. I feel like that's an anime, but yeah.
Yeah.
This all makes perfect sense now because I always thought, based off of the kind of content that a lot of conservative creators were putting out there, there's no way they could afford the lifestyle that they were living.
Why?
Now
Which ones? Who?
Now I'm just starting to believe that they're all a lot of them are being paid off in huge amounts. This is like actually making everything clear because you hear the rumors, a Destiny's paid off by this or these people are paid off by that. But a lot of them, their numbers don't even match the kind of lifestyle that they're living.
Yeah.
But now that
Isn't that how
I'm like,
Daily
how are you
Wire-
buying a house when you're like raking in maybe like 1 million views per month at most? Like I know what kind of money you're taking home from that. And I know you don't have the kind of subscription deals that you're like portraying. So now that I'm learning, I'm like, that's how you own 2 homes. Okay, this is like, it's starting to come together.
Yeah.
Well, even the Daily Wire, don't they get like funding from billionaire fracking industry jackasses?
I don't know how much external funding they get, but the Daily Wire legitimately does a fuck ton. The Daily Wire should be all legit. They get so much money in subscriptions.
Well, I'm not saying that they're just totally funded by, just random billionaires or political, organizations. I know now they've gotten really huge, but I'm pretty sure before they were actually getting a pretty significant amount of funding just from a few weird conservative groups and from some like oil people.
Oh, I don't know. No clue about that. But
Okay, Destiny, I want to get you on the record.
uh-oh.
Would you ever accept money to do political content on a political entity? Could be the Conservative Party or whatever. Would you accept money to make that kind of content, even if it aligned with your values?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with accepting money for it. You just have to like declare it. Like that's the big issue here, right? Like when I'm doing work with Progressive Victory, even though I've never been paid by them, like it's pretty obvious that I'm doing work that's in line with, what they want. And it's just like a Progressive Victory event. The issue is just when you're not disclosing. That's the huge issue. Yeah. I mean, like, would I ever take money and not disclose? I mean, like, I'm sure there's some theoretical, if the fucking Mossad came to me with like $1 billion, I would hope, but principally I would say no. But realistically, no, I love my country. Fuck that.
Yeah, like I'm very pro-Israel. If the Israeli government came to me and said, "Here's like hundreds of thousands of dollars to, I don't know, promote some idea," as long as it aligns with my values, I would take the money. But I'd also disclose that what I'm doing has been funded by like Israel.
What would you say to the critics that would then look at you and say, well, how can we really trust your judgment or your take on any of this, considering you're being financed by the very entity that you are now defending publicly? Wouldn't that you'd be getting paid, but wouldn't that be a hurt to your kind of credibility?
Yeah, so I don't think it necessarily would be because, one, I disclosed that I'm getting funded. I'm not hiding it. I'm admitting to it. And I think I've built up a reputation so far where people know that I'll only accept these sorts of transactions if it already aligns with my values. So it's not like I'm being bought and paid for to say this. It's that I would have said this anyway, but this company wants to work with me and give me money to spread the message further.
Okay. What about you, Destiny? Do you think it would hurt people's ability to take your bias out of it?
This would super depend on what this was for, right? Like, I don't know if I would ever take broad political money just because it probably wouldn't be worth it for even the perceived hit for my credibility. Yeah. But I mean, like, let's say there was a company that wanted to donate, some pro-affirmative action company that wanted to donate to do like an event to, I don't even know, to do some social outreach that I was going to go to an event for to promote or something. Like, I would probably be open about that. I wouldn't care about that. But half these fucking losers already accused me of being like funded by the Mossad anyway. Also, by the way, over the past month, I kept saying over and over again, listen, if any other content creator like Candace Owens wants to have a full disclosure of all of our income sources to a third party and have those published online, I would do that 100%. I would do that with any of these fucking guys. But there's a reason none of them would ever agree to do that ever. But yeah.
Whoa, do you think they're being paid?
Or they're getting money from sources in percentages that they don't want people to know about. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all for my questions. I appreciate you, boss.
All right. I'll be careful.
Oh, wait. Actually, before I leave, what do you think the final outcome is going to be for the likes of Tim Pool and them? I know you think Lauren Chen and them are going to jail, probably, but what about the rest?
Almost no impact. Conservatives have no values and no principles and no standards.
No, I'm not talking about the political impact. I'm actually talking about their livelihood. Do you actually think like there's a potential secret indictments coming towards Tim Pool and the others?
The language of these indictments makes it pretty clear, at least in the indictment so far, that none of the commenters are implicated. And I don't have any reason to believe right now that they are. But that could change. Who knows? When
you say implicated, what do you mean?
Implicated in criminal behavior. They're described essentially as victims in this. And
so Tim Pool was right. He was a victim.
That's how it's described, yes. So, for instance, in paragraph 4, Kalashnikov and Afanasyev, I can't pronounce these names, Founder 1 and Founder 2, which is Lauren Chen, and Liam Donovan, that's Lauren Chen and her husband, also worked together to deceive two U.S. online commentators, Commentator 1 and 2, who respectively have, so many YouTube subscribers. Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 are Dave Rubin and Tim Pool. So that's what the language of the indictment makes it sound.
Well, just to be clear, you can be a victim of a crime and be part of a crime and still get convicted. So that's only the outline of this indictment.
Yeah, that's why I'm just saying that for the language of this indictment, there could be something different that changes it, but that's what it says, yeah.
So it is still very possible that they could just dig into Tim Pool and then discover that he knew about the shit and was complicit in it.
Possibly, yeah. But, yeah.
All right, then. That's all from me, boys.
Okay. Have fun. Be careful.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk to you real quick about that stupid Lex Friedman interview with Donald Trump.
Yeah, what about it?
Yeah, this is kind of typical of Lex Friedman. He's kind of a boring idiot who asks stupid questions, and when his guests give stupid answers, he gives absolutely no pushback. So And I think that was probably the worst interview he's ever done in respect to that kind of behavior. Like, at the beginning of the interview, Trump was talking about how the election was fucking rigged. He was talking about the negotiation with Ukraine ending the war. And then Lex doesn't go over doesn't point out that, no, the election wasn't stolen. Like, you still believe that stupid shit? Or, like, are you actually going to give territory to Russia? None of that. And that was, like, the entire interview. And he asked just stupid fucking random questions that had, like, nobody's interested in. I can't stand the guy. I don't understand how anybody watches a stupid podcast. It's just absolutely worthless.
Yeah, the interview was pretty disappointing. I don't disagree. Yeah, and there was no pushback or substantive debating on anything.
Well, I would say Lex Friedman's entire fucking channel is absolutely worthless. Like, at least Joe Rogan, like, stupid shit happens on Joe Rogan. But, I mean, at least the guy, when he notices he gets a weird answer or disagrees, will give some kind of pushback. Lex Friedman, you can say the most ridiculous fucking shit ever. You could say, did you know the Holocaust never happened? And Lex Friedman would be like, oh, that's interesting that you have that opinion. So, like, what do you think of this other thing? That's all he fucking does. He is worthless.
Yeah, his interviews are there's something else. I'm not going to disagree.
Oh, yeah. Dude, his debates suck too. Like, when you were on his podcast for the debate with Ben Shapiro, worst fucking moderator of all time, gives you like 5 minutes to speak on incredibly complex topics, and you're only allowed to respond to the person once until you move on to the next. Like, fuck him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad for challenging pushback. I'm not going to disagree. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I think he deliberately does this, by the way, because he's a fucking scumbag, and he just wants to get in as many guests, high-profile guests, as he can. So if he develops a reputation on the platform for being this hard-hitting journalist who asks tough questions, he's never going to get anybody on like Elon Musk. So he deliberately does this horse shit just so that he can get on bigger guests. But it's so perplexing still, because who the fuck would watch this shit?
Yeah, but I think that's the issue with trying to make these connections, right? Because for a long time, well, not for a long time, but for a decent amount of time, like, this is how I was able to reach out and talk to like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson. And I realize this now, that there are so many areas that you can't touch. You just have to be willing to play ball. And Lex is willing to play ball, I guess, a lot more than I am. And other people are willing to play ball less than me. And they don't talk to anybody. So yeah, it's just very frustrating. The media, all of the media environments are very isolated from each other. And that's an intentional thing. There's a reason why Ben Shapiro and Stephen Crowder will never debate anybody ever on a serious topic that breaches like an area that they don't want to talk about. Like, these people are very intentional with who they confront. Yeah.
Yeah, because they'll look like fucking morons, and then their audience is going to leave them.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, have fun with the rest of your day, dude.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Have fun. Be careful.
Take care.
Nefarious powers try to interfere in American elections. That is just a reality. China has repeatedly attempted to interfere in American elections. We know that Iran is attempting to interfere in the American election. So it's not a surprise that Russia will try to interfere in the American election. The difference is that when China does it, it is not a national news story. When Iran does it, it's
I'm sorry. What were the Chinese equivalents to this story? What?
pretty much buried. When it's Russia, because the supposition is that the Russians...
Also, wait, what?
Sorry. When Iran does it, it's pretty much buried. When it's Russia, because the supposition is that the Russians support President Trump for the presidency because he is not a stalwart on Ukraine or something, despite the fact that, by the way, Donald Trump in practice was harsher on Russia than Joe Biden was prior to the invasion of Ukraine.
What did Trump even do that was harsh on Russia?
Despite all of that, the basic idea is that...
Is he talking about selling weapons to Ukraine? Is that supposed to be harsh on Russia, or...
Russia is going to intervene in the election in such deep and nefarious ways that you will be deceived. You will be deceived. And again, this feels like them setting up the predicate for a crackdown on social media, for a crackdown on tech companies that allow free speech, for a crackdown on, say, X, or a crackdown on right-wing media. Now, as we'll see, there's some right-wing media have opened the door to that, which is really disgusting and terrible. Get to that in a moment. But the Biden administration is going to play this to the hilt. Yesterday, the Biden administration prepared to publicly accuse Russia of launching a sustained campaign to influence the 2024 presidential elections using Kremlin-controlled media and online platforms to spread disinformation, according to Mediaite. That accusation was to be part of a broader set of actions expected to be announced on Wednesday, including law enforcement efforts aimed at curbing the alleged Russian operation. Now, this only makes sense in the context of 2020, when you had the American defense and intelligence apparatus warning people like Mark Zuckerberg that they needed to shut down the Hunter Biden story because it might be Russian disinformation.
Nobody has ever substantiated this claim. That story has never, ever, ever been substantiated, ever. It wasn't substantiated in the Twitter files. Even in Zuckerberg's weird suck-off letter to Jim Jordan, I don't think he said that the United States directly pressured them to get rid of the laptop story. But, I mean, we can just keep saying this over and over again, I guess.
Apparatus warning people like Mark Zuckerberg that they needed to shut down the Hunter Biden story because it might be Russian disinformation. They're setting the groundwork for that right now. If there are bad stories to brag about Kamala Harris before the campaign ends, what you are going to see is the Biden administration claim that it's Russian disinformation. Again, it is a convenient excuse to siphon off any sort of viewership of that information. According to 4 sources who talked exclusively to CNN, Russian state media outlet RT is a central focus of the U.S. response, with officials viewing it as a key tool in the Kremlin's propaganda machine, with disinformation being funneled through both American and foreign voices. And again, that would not be a particular shock. RT obviously has a vested interest in particular points of view being elevated. The question is, how much real impact is that going to have on the election? Well, the reason the media are covering this up to wazoo is because they are basically saying the only way Donald Trump can win is if the Russians somehow manipulate Americans into voting for him. John Kirby, national security spokesperson, he says the Russians are now using AI to try to manipulate the election.
It's much more sophisticated than what we've seen out of the Russians in the recent past, certainly than what we saw in 2016. Yes, they're using social media, but they're much more pervasive at it. They're creating false persona, using artificial intelligence to help drive content and distribute content. And they're much more resourced and organized, using RT, what was formerly just a propaganda organ for the Kremlin, now has turned into a full covert influence activity with full funding to do this kind of work by funneling resources and organizing editorial content in actual media outlets.
Okay, what is this? This was 4 months ago.
But anyway, we continue. Ben Shapiro
are isolationist on foreign policy, but they're isolationist on foreign policy mainly because they believe that the United States is a nefarious force in the world. They're sort of Howard Zinn or Noam Chomsky with regard to American foreign policy. America is actually bad. That horseshoe theory.
Okay, so you could tell that Ben Shapiro is a neocon already because of how he's using the term isolationism. He's basically using it as a slur, and he's using it incorrectly. There are a lot of people who are anti-war who are not isolationists, myself included. I don't believe that America should be the world's police and should be dropping bombs on all these civilians, but I'm not an isolationist. I believe in diplomacy. I believe in free trade. I believe in sometimes even,
Remember, anti-war, anybody that describes themselves as anti-war is just retarded. It doesn't make sense to be anti-war when the only people you ever come down on are people that defend themselves. Okay, calling yourself anti-war is just retarded. Okay, it's almost always a nonsense position to take. Like, you can be against starting wars. I think that's probably good. The UN is supposed to be against that position. Like, you can be against starting wars. That's fine. Just say like you're anti-war, so you don't want Ukraine to defend themselves, or you don't want.
War is bad, but I'm not naive. The idea that the U.S. backs off from the global stage results in less war is not correct. I think war and conflict is the state of the world and always has been. And the peace we've maintained over the past several decades is lucky.
I gotta get out of here. It's actually such a stupid f***ing statement. It's just pure luck that somehow the last few decades have been relatively peaceful. It's just luck.
I'm just trying to navigate less war because of the consequences. And I don't see why escalation in Ukraine is good for the United States. I don't see it. The argument that Putin will continue to expand doesn't mean anything to me. If Putin attacks a NATO ally, now we've got an issue. Not that I'm a big fan of NATO because I don't know what it's doing. Like, literally, I mean, like, why is NATO expanding? But Russia invaded Ukraine. And it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you should have imposed a no-fly zone over Ukraine before the invasion.
That's not even possible. What are you talking about? What, we're going to shoot down Russian planes over Ukraine that's not a member of NATO or an official U.S. ally? What does that even mean? What?
And then there would have been a justification for active war. Ukraine could have been made an ally of the United States.
Oh, so Ukraine should have joined NATO?
Or had a treaty. Or they could have stated that they were going to enforce the treaty from the 90s after the removal of nuclear weapons and enforce a no-fly zone. And then when Russia moved in, this would have been a declaration of war on us. I don't know. I don't understand any of it. I think they're just really, really bad at what they do. Here's the funny thing about all of the people claiming that, like, we're getting paid by Russia or whatever. That's not true. We received money from a U.S. company, from an individual that we knew for a very long time.
That was, oh, so you knew her for a long time? So what, did she deceive you the whole fucking time? Are you just retarded then? You can't tell when somebody is compromised? So that means we shouldn't take your word for anybody being not compromised, right? Since you have no idea, you don't know, right? You knew her for a long time. You're a close friend. She was entirely compromised. She was doing money laundering and taking money from a foreign source, and then she lied to you about it. She lied to you about it, and you didn't know. You had no inkling whatsoever. They're getting paid $500,000 a month for your dog shit videos that are doing worse views on your channel than Gisticle does on his streams. You don't think that maybe there was some weird shit going on? You had no idea? How investigative of you. Nice.
Paid by Russia or whatever. That's not true. We received money from a U.S. company, from an individual that we knew for a very long time. And I will stress, it's funny because people don't know the value of money. And so as to the
everyone in chat is saying it's a shot at Gisticle. It's not a shot at Gisticle. Tim Pool is one of the largest political podcast people on the internet. The fact that his videos were doing so poorly is unbelievable.
A long time. And I will stress, it's funny because people don't know the value of money. And so as to the numbers listed in these documents, they're probably slightly below market.
You're fucking lying. You're lying. He's a fucking liar. And he is right that people don't know money. So people don't know how much money Tim Pool gets paid, but he's lying that these are below market values. And I can tell you that as somebody that makes 7 figures a year on YouTube. He is lying. You absolutely will never see a creator of his size getting paid that much money with no call to action, with no products being sold, with no affiliate link, with no KPI, no key performance indicators, no minimum viewership thresholds, no incentives for certain viewership thresholds, or for certain product numbers sold, for no content direction, for not featuring any. It's absolutely not true. He is lying. He is lying.
Funny because people don't know the value of money. And so as to the numbers listed in these documents, they're probably slightly below market. Not kidding. Not a joke. Take a look at what, I'll put it this way. Look at what Travis Kelce got for his podcast. $100 million for 3 years.
Travis Kelly podcast. Is it Machine Gun Kelly? Taylor Swift's boyfriend? Okay, wait. Travis Kelly. Is it Kelly or Kelsey? Podcast. 100 million? Fuck, I don't know anything about podcasts. Is this like a super ultra popular? I mean, if it's Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Also, keep in mind the difference even in what we're talking about. This is to have your entire podcast probably exclusively delivered on a podcast platform. Okay, so every single episode is owned by Amazon. They have exclusive rights for distribution and marketing, right? This is a totally different kind of deal. And it's an NFL fucking football player who's dating Taylor Swift. What the fuck? Like, why would you go to literally the most expensive? This is probably one of the most expensive podcast deals of all time. What did Joe Rogan get? How much was his shit? Up to 250 million, right? Oh, is said up to be worth up to. That probably means that there are, you wouldn't call them milestones, right? Would you just call it incentives in a contract for hitting like certain viewership goals or certain distribution rates or whatever, performance goals or whatever, exclusive advertising sales and distribution rights to their New Heights show. Yeah, of course. So, in a deal like this, obviously. Wondery will have exclusive rights to all audio and video episodes of the podcast, including its back catalog, and will have the rights to monetize and distribute the episodes, create and sell merchandise, and create international adaptations of the podcast. So it sounds like they don't even get ads or whatever on the show, right? They don't get paid for any of that. It's just the flat 100. I mean, not that that's bad, but New Heights was the 4th biggest podcast in the United States across all platforms for the first quarter of 2024, though it dropped to number 14 in the second quarter after football season ended. Imagine comparing you to this. Oh my God. When he has non-exclusive videos that he can repost to his own fucking channel with no content direction at all. Unreal.
Take a look at what, I'll put it this way. Look at what Travis Kelce got for his podcast, $100 million for 3 years. And then look at the money that was being paid in the indictment. Okay? Then look at the size of Travis Kelce's podcast compared to the people that were being signed. And we'll call that like market comparable or below market, whatever. Let's go and grab some more super chats.
Except they didn't buy your whole podcast. They didn't buy your show. You were just making content for them. He's relying on the audience here, not knowing how any of these deals work. However, I will say also, this is actually, this is par for the course for Tim, because Tim did the same thing when he lied and misrepresented the Steven Crowder argument with the Daily Wire. Anybody that's ever signed a single entertainment contract in their life knows that Steven Crowder was lying and was full of shit when he was fighting with the Daily Wire over their contract stuff. They know that, Steven Crowder, this is a public power play. That's what he's doing, because obviously he's being bad faith with the way that he's talking about the contract here. And Tim Pool, I even asked Tim Pool if I could come on and talk about this, and this is back when we were talking, and they were totally silent on me coming on and debating this point. And now I see why, because they don't ever want to be challenged on issues where they're completely grifting. The Steven Crowder is just 100% in the wrong there. But Tim Pool defended him, both nuts and the dick in his mouth at the same time.
Steven says, has Putin famously told Schwab to take the WEF and pound sand? Elizabeth Swim says, Steven Crowder just broke some major news around Trump lawfare. All right, let's...
And that's it, and then we go. Yeah, true. It's the same thing Glenn Greenwald did when he compared it to all the advertising that was happening or all the fundraising that was done for all the politics in the United States and compared it to this company. Yeah. Jesus. Petrodollar. I guess I got petrodollar memes in here.
Let's see what he's got. We'll pull up louderwithcrowder.com. Lawfare against Trump undercover cam. And let's pull it up and talk about it. I don't got any other segments. Let's grab this one. It's 11:30. We can do this one. All right, everybody. We got this breaking story from Louder with Crowder. I've not yet read it. This show is live, and this was sent to me in our super chats while we were live streaming.
You read things off stream. Good one.
So we're going to go through the story. I'm going to read it in real time with you guys. Lawfare against Trump. DOJ Chief of Public Affairs alleges, quote, it's a perversion of justice. Wow. Take a look at this. Loud with Crowder's Mug Club undercover unit released a new video today exposing the political lawfare President Trump has faced over the last 18 months. Nicholas Biase, a senior official at the U.S. Department of Justice, Southern District of New York, explained what he calls a perversion of justice led by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg to hurt the current Republican nominee's chance in the 2024 presidential election. Led by a new video today exposed... Wow. Trump, DOJ Chief of
Public Affairs. I like how that makes it sound like we're talking about federal cases, but now he's talking about Alvin Bragg, which is a state case from New York, but okay.
Public Crowder's Mug Club undercover unit.
Oh man, do I want to watch this guy go through an actual article? This is like watching Hassan read anything having to do with anything. Oh God.
Released a new video today exposing the political lawfare President Trump has faced over the last 18 months. Nicholas Biase, a senior official at the U.S. Department of Justice, Southern District of New York, explained what he calls a perversion of justice led by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
Who is this guy? Nicholas Biase? Oh, and it's a secret recording piece. Oh, some good Project Veritas stuff. Okay.
To hurt the current Republican nominee's chance in the 2024 presidential election. He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. No, honestly, I think the case against Trump and NYC is nonsense. Every real estate person in New York does what Trump did. Nobody's ever been charged with this. It's all him. That's why he's surging in the polls. It's a perversion of justice. Wow.
Wait, is this even referring to what he got? This is for the real estate case? Did that case ever even go through? Or this isn't even about what he got in this isn't even about what he got convicted on, no? How long ago? How old are these recordings? So these aren't even the things that Trump was convicted for. Do you think he even knows that?
Oh, do they have the actual video here? They do. Let's. Oh, so this is. Oh, this is the video.
Stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. Nonsense.
Wow.
To make him a contract.
Wow. Wait, you're watching the. Is this the streamer equivalent? Wow, that's crazy, chat.
Oh, so this is. Oh, this is the video.
Stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. Nonsense.
Wow.
To make him a convict, a convicted felon. That's his candidacy. If he's a convicted felon. It's a travesty of justice, a mockery of justice.
Is that Alvin Bragg's choice to do that, or why?
Because Alvin's very ambitious.
What do you mean?
He wants to be, something. I don't know what. A mayor. I'm not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA.
This is crazy. This is the Southern.
What's crazy? You haven't even heard anything yet.
Southern District of New York, DOJ, Public Affairs, an undercover camera stating that Donald Trump is the victim of legal lawfare with an unjust case. This is huge.
Oh my God. Wait, this is so fucking cringe. He doesn't even know what the fuck he's reading about. This is huge. Is this all just an act? Wait, is this normal show like this? This is actually so fucking cringe.
Donald Trump is the victim of legal lawfare with an unjust case. This is huge. Holy crap. Wow. The point of prosecuting Trump was to make him into a convict. It affects his candidacy if he's a convicted felon. The SDNY spokesman wanted to explain just how well he knows Alvin Bragg. He also details why he believes Bragg moved forward with indicting Trump. Before we decided to prosecute Trump, did you know who he was? You do now, Alvin Bragg, who I've known for 15 years, who used to work in my office. Alvin is very ambitious. I used to work with him for 10 years. I mean, we know each other really well, but do I respect what he's doing? No. The U.S. Department of Justice Chief of Public Affairs agreed with the Mug Club undercover journalist that President Trump was undergoing a process of political lawfare, where Trump's Democrat political opponents are using the judicial system to affect electoral results.
Notice how they don't bring up that what Trump was convicted for has nothing to do with the case being discussed here, but...
The assay cited the Fulton County, Georgia prosecutor Fonnie Willis as a prime example of an unethical prosecutor. The Fonnie Willis case in Fulton County, Georgia is a travesty of justice. To put it mildly, it's a mockery of justice. She is a joke. The whole thing is disgusting. They just have to get him. The senior DOJ official said, Americans will not vote for a criminal. The Democrat machine, the swamp, and bad actors have falsely made Trump out to be a criminal. This revelation proves that Trump is no criminal. We'll play more from this clip.
This revelation proves that Donald Trump is no criminal. No criminal, so his felonies didn't count, even though it was about a totally different case that's not even being discussed here? Why didn't they ask him about the felonies that he was convicted on? Why not ask about the actual relevant case?
Be a criminal. This revelation proves that Trump is no criminal. We'll play more from this clip.
New York County. So this is before he decided to prosecute Trump, did you know who he was? You do now.
What was the point of even doing it then?
Oh, he's texting Dimitri right now. Is there anything else I need to cover, sir?
In a convict.
Make him what?
Convicted felon.
How does he can still run for presidency? And
Yeah, but it affects his candidacy if he's a convicted felon.
I was trying to count all. I wonder how many are against him. I think it's for lawfare.
Yes.
That's what I've gathered from it.
That is what they call it.
So how does this even happen? How can it happen? How can the local and state level courts?
For the 80 IQs out there, can you please explain to us how this is different to Qatar having their BS think tank / new reporting to push Muslim Brotherhood propaganda or APAC lobbying? Okay. In the United States of America, if you're taking money from a foreign government or if you're taking direction from a foreign government, you have to report that to the United States State Department in accordance with a rule law called FARA, not FARA, FARA, which is the Foreign Agents Registration Act, okay? APAC does not take money from or does not take direction from anybody working for Israel for their content or for who they lobby for. It's just a group of people in the United States that they are interested in protecting Israel, right? Much the same that if me and Dan and a bunch of people got together and we made a group called, what does APAC even stand for? American Israeli Public Affairs. If we made like AMPAC, the American Mexican Public Affairs Committee, and we wanted to promote, because we think it's important to be more friendly with Mexico, and we wanted to promote that, as long as we're not taking money from Mexico and not reporting it, and as long as we're not taking content direction from Mexico and we're not reporting it, we're fine. You can do that. You're allowed to advocate for other countries' interests in the United States as U.S. citizens. And I think maybe even as foreign nationals, you're allowed to do that, as long as you're not taking direction or money from anybody from another country. You're totally allowed to do that. When you talk about like Qatar influence in the United States, if it's disclosed, you're allowed to do that as well. If Qatar is sending money to the U.S. in some way, and the people are funded by it, and they're vocal about that, and they say that, hey, here's money that we are disclosing this funding to via FARA to the State Department from whatever, you're allowed to do that as well. These are all okay things. You just can't lie about it. This feels like a loophole that goes against the spirit. No, that's not true. It is not a loophole, and it doesn't go against the spirit. The spirit is if a foreign director is directing a company working in the United States, we should know about it. It's not illegal for other countries to make their desires or wills or whatever known to the American people, even working through American companies. We just should know about it. That disclosure is important.
I was just going to say one thing in regards to the FAR Act. I was reading up on it last couple of days, and it doesn't. Since it's been around since I think 1955, it hasn't been prosecuted more than 5 or 6 times. So for whatever reason, in the States, for a good 50 years, they just never even touched the act, and if ever, it's never used. And then in the last, I would say 7 to 10 years, especially in regards to Russian-related stuff, you've definitely seen an uptick. But do you find it odd that an act that's been on the books for this long has literally never been used much at all? considering how much you believe it's probably more probable that there's a lot of foreign involvement in American politics that should have been considered under the FOWER Act for the last 50 years?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I don't know any evidence for it. It's just possible that now it's so much easier to coordinate this stuff and it's so much easier to do this that maybe now it's more likely that people are going to do it than they would have like 30, 40, 50 years ago. Like now, like think about before. I'm only guessing. I don't know how sophisticated all the tech is, but like think about before if somebody's bringing in money to the United States in suitcases or some shit, maybe, or even for bank deposits. I don't know how hard it was to track that. Nowadays, everything is digital and electronic. Like if I'm the FBI, I can get your whole financial life like at my fingertips in probably like 20 or 30 minutes of subpoenaing and like, or however long it takes for the people to respond to the requests. So maybe it's a lot easier to find out. Yeah, sorry.
How bad do you think it is to operate on behalf of a foreign government in this manner and not disclose the fact that you are taking money from them and acting on their behalf? How egregious of a sin do you think that is?
Honestly, as a category of crimes, I would say that I think that can run the gamut all the way from not really that serious at all the way to being incredibly and very serious. So like, for instance, like, let's say that like,
just before,
go ahead.
The reason why I'm saying this in terms of crime, the crime is the lack of disclosure. So what would make the lack of disclosure more severe to you that it can go through such a wide range, right? That's what I'm questioning.
Well, yeah. So like saying, like there could be a country, like let's say Indonesia comes to me and they're like, listen, we really, really, really think that more people should be Indonesian tourists. Like, can you please talk about this on your stream? We'll give you like $20,000 to say you had a really good vacation in Indonesia, right? Now I believe that should be disclosed to the U.S. State Department. You're taking it for money, content direction, media, all that, right? But like, let's say you do that, you don't report it. Like, is that really that bad? I mean, like you should, and it's bad that you didn't do it. But like, it's not like you're contrary to interests of the United States or you're trying to over somebody. I think it gets more and more bad when you're starting to advocate on behalf of, I would say, America's enemies, or at least people whose interests are dramatically contrary to ours. I think that makes it more bad. But for the crime itself, I don't know if that impacts like the sentencing on the crime, or if there are
it
other
probably
crimes
shouldn't, because I think if the crime is just really about transparency, then it shouldn't really matter in regards to which. Like, I understand for severity from a public relations standpoint, it should matter, but this is really a matter of transparency and making sure that you disclose the information when you're involved. I don't think it really should matter where that comes from, unless like there's other acts that you plan on charging from. Even for Lauren Chen, like, do you realize how much jail time she might be facing if she does get convicted? Which a lot of people, even when convicted for this act, don't face jail time. How much time do you think she's going to face?
I have no idea, because I don't know what other crimes she may or may not have committed. The thing that is probably the scary crime isn't the fact that it's the FAR violation. It's the fact that it's a sanction violation. That might be a really big deal. So for the past 2 years, so for the past 2 years, the United States has sanctioned the Russian government. That means even with disclosure, you can't be working with Russia. And sanction violations might be a much larger deal. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. When I was reading up on that, I guess I didn't miss that portion. I thought the money laundering was the part where they're probably going to get axed the most. Because when I was looking at Robert Mueller's previous FAR convictions, some of those people in those, I believe it was related to Trump, some of those people got 0 jail time or like 25 months or like 48 months. Like,
in and of itself, it's probably not like the biggest deal crime ever. Sure. But if you're doing it to commit other crimes, it's probably really bad. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to it.
Okay.